Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is laser focused on one company, Meta AI, and one incredibly dense week right over the holiday break. We're talking December 28th, 2025 through January 4th, 2026.
And what a week it was. I mean, it was defined by this extreme strategic dichotomy.
Dichotomy, how so?
Well, on one side, you have Mark Zuckerberg making this huge, bold pivot toward autonomous AI agents. We're talking multiple billion-dollar acquisitions.
Right.
But on the other side, the trust in their core models, like Llama, just publicly fractured. A departing exec drops a bombshell, and it leads to massive internal turmoil. This wasn't just a news cycle, it was a real inflection point for Meta.
Okay, so let's unpack this dizzying period. We have to start with the biggest financial move, the one that really signals where Meta is placing its future bets. Let's call it the Agentic bet. So the big news right before New Year's was Meta acquiring Manus, a startup out of Singapore building autonomous AI agents. We've talked about LLMs for years, but what exactly is an autonomous agent?
Yeah, and why do they pay, somewhere between $2 and $3 billion for one?
Exactly.
Well, an agent is. It's a step beyond just a chatbot. Think of it as an AI that can actually do complex tasks. It can plan, it can analyze, it can execute.
So it's not just talking, it's acting.
Precisely. Manus built agents that could, operate in a virtual computer to analyze an investment portfolio or plan a complex trip with real-time data. And that price tag, you mentioned, it's about 4 times what Manus was valued at in April 2025.
Hold on, so Meta paid a massive premium. Is that a sign of strategic genius, or is it an admission that their own internal GenAI engine, the Llama team, failed to create a revenue stream fast enough?
I think it's both. It's a strategic move, but it's also a clear admission. I mean, what's fascinating here is that Manus reported a $125 million annual revenue run rate in just 8 months.
Wow.
Meta has spent billions on infrastructure. This acquisition gives them an immediate proven way to monetize. They're buying revenue that their own team couldn't deliver, and it fast-tracks their pivot to this agentic infrastructure.
But this deal also came with a really significant string attached, right? Something about national security.
Oh, absolutely. As a condition of the deal, Manus had to completely sever ties with all of its existing Chinese investors. We're talking major players like Tencent and Zen Funds.
So it was a geopolitical choice.
It was. It directly addressed concerns from U.S. lawmakers, and really it sets a powerful precedent for how these big cross-border AI deals are going to be structured from now on.
And as if a $3 billion acquisition wasn't enough, on the very same day, December 30th, Meta made another massive move to shore up its foundational infrastructure.
They did. Meta acquired a 49% stake in U.S.-based Scale AI for $14.3 billion.
$14 billion. That's an immense investment.
It's foundational. Scale AI is the leader in high-quality data annotation and, just as important, model evaluation. If you want to build reliable, trustworthy agents, you need perfect data and you need rigorous testing.
So they bought the quality control?
They bought the quality control, and they brought in Scale AI's CEO, Alexander Wang, into a top AI leadership role at Meta. And as we're about to see, his arrival couldn't have come at a more chaotic time.
Right. Let's get into that chaos.
Yeah, so the bridge here really is Alexander Wang. Meta brings him in to secure their data pipeline, just as the credibility of their flagship model gets, publicly torched by their departing chief AI scientist, Yann LeCun.
Okay, so shifting from acquisitions to this major internal turmoil, the first week of 2026 was all about LeCun's public confirmation about the Llama 4 model benchmarks. What exactly did he admit to?
He came out and publicly confirmed that the Llama 4 benchmarks, before its release in April 2025, were, and this is his phrase, fudged a little bit.
Fudged. That's a strong word.
It is. He clarified that they were using different versions of the model for different tests to, juice the overall scores and make the model look better than it actually was.
That is a staggering admission. It basically validates months of criticism that Llama 4 wasn't performing as advertised. What was the internal fallout?
It was immediate. It was devastating. LeCun said that Zuckerberg lost confidence in everyone who was involved. And that led directly to the sidelining of the entire GenAI organization.
The entire organization.
The entire org. And it resulted in 600 layoffs of engineers and researchers. This whole public scandal explains that leadership restructuring we saw in 2025. It was a cleanup operation, and it's why they brought in Wang.
And LeCun, on his way out the door, he didn't hold back on his opinion of the new leadership, did he?
Not at all. He called the new AI chief, Alexander Wang, inexperienced in research leadership. And then he announced his own new venture, Advanced Machine Intelligence Labs, or AMI Labs, in Paris.
And he's focusing on world models, not LLMs. Can you quickly break that down for the listener?
Sure, think of an LLM as a brilliant language engine. It predicts text. A world model, which is what LeCun wants to build, is a system that tries to simulate and predict the actual laws of reality.
So understanding how the world works, not just how language works.
Exactly. And he's so convinced it's the future that he called LLMs a dead end. His new lab is reportedly seeking a $5 billion valuation right out of the gate.
So we have this incredible pressure cooker, billions being invested in new agent tech, but the credibility of their flagship model just collapsed, driving out top talent. And that pressure wasn't just internal, right?
Not at all. While all this was happening, Meta was also facing a massive external challenge over user privacy. A coalition of 36 advocacy groups filed a formal complaint with the FTC.
And this was about Meta using AI chatbot conversations for targeted advertising.
Correct. Their new policy affects over 1 billion monthly users across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. The groups argued that this data, conversations about your health, your finances, your personal struggles, is substantially more sensitive than just, what you click on.
So one of the biggest expansions of AI-driven surveillance marketing in history.
That's what they're calling it. And they even cited Meta's 2019 consent decree with the FTC in their complaint, so they're playing hardball.
It's amazing that with all that high-stakes drama, the research machine at Meta never slowed down. They published several key papers this week that show they're really focused on building the underlying tech for these future agents.
Yeah, that's right. Let's start with generative video. It's always struggled with physical realism, right? Things just look off.
Yeah, floaty.
Floaty, exactly. So Meta AI researchers introduced something called PhyGDPO. It stands for Physics-Aware Group-Wise Direct Preference Optimization.
So what's the real-world consequence of a physics-aware model?
It just means the video it generates is plausible. If a cup drops, it actually accelerates correctly. It doesn't just drift away. To do this, they built a massive data set called PhyGen 135K. It's 135,000 text-video pairs specifically labeled with physical rules.
And that puts them ahead of the competition.
On physics consistency tests, yes. It achieved new state-of-the-art scores, even surpassing methods like OpenAI's Sora 2. This is critical if agents are going to use video for reliable simulations.
Okay, so from the laws of physics to the rules of social interaction, we also saw the introduction of MotivNet, which seems tied directly to their hardware, especially the glasses.
It is a perfect example of their vertical integration strategy. MotivNet is a framework to make their Sapiens Foundation model emotionally intelligent. It's moving their vision models beyond just detecting an object to actual psychological interpretation.
So for someone wearing the Meta Ray-Ban AI glasses, what does that actually enable?
Well, think of it this way. The glasses won't just see a face. They'll have the cognitive stack to understand social context. Is the person you're talking to confused? Are they bored? It could provide you with real-time social cues.
That's a whole other level of interaction.
It really is. And they kept pushing on the research front with the RPG dataset for AI co-scientists.
Right, the research plan generation dataset.
Yeah, they released it on Hugging Face. It's got 22,000 tasks across machine learning, ArtSev, and PubMed. It's basically a toolkit for training an AI to be a research partner to help with automated scientific planning.
And finally, tying this all back to that big agentic pivot, there was the MIDAS framework.
Right, MIDAS. It's a framework that uses the distributed team of specialized AI agents to brainstorm, to refine ideas. The key is that it assesses both global novelty, how new an idea is to the world, and local novelty, so how new it is compared to the last idea in the session.
So it's not just one AI having a single brilliant idea.
Exactly. It replaces that single spurt of ideation with a more coordinated team-based approach, which aligns perfectly with the Manus acquisition. Meta's future is about agents working together.
So this agentic push, the multi-agent brainstorming, all of it demands an incredibly efficient infrastructure. And Meta's research here shows they're automating the very core of their hardware stack. Let's talk about KernelEvolve.
KernelEvolve is, I would argue, one of the most critical breakthroughs of the week. It solves a huge bottleneck for them. It's an automated code generation system that uses an AI agent to write and optimize low-level compute kernels.
Okay, what exactly is a compute kernel? For our listeners who aren't kernel engineers, why should they care?
Think of it as the super optimized translator that lets your software talk directly to the hardware, specifically to specialized hardware, like Meta's custom MTIA v3 chips.
And this is normally done by hand.
Traditionally, yes. It's incredibly complex, manual work that takes weeks. KernelEvolve automates it.
And the results.
The results are astounding. Development time drops from weeks to hours. And performance-wise, it achieved 100% correctness across hundreds of configurations and showed up to a 17 times speed up on production models.
So let me get this straight. Meta is now using AI to teach its software how to run best on its own custom AI chips, automatically.
That's the loop. That's the core of their vertical integration strategy.
Yeah.
It dramatically lessens their dependence on, say, NVIDIA's CUDA ecosystem and lets them scale their own hardware so much faster.
And they're looking even further ahead, right? Something about photonics.
Yeah, that's the long-term hedge, using light instead of electricity to move data. Photonics offers better speed and, critically, much better energy efficiency.
Which is key for things like AR glasses.
Exactly. For edge AI, where power and heat are huge constraints, and also for data centers where energy costs are just soaring, they proposed an open-source framework called Symphony to help speed up development in that area.
So let's quickly touch on the product pipeline. How is Meta trying to make Llama more attractive to developers, especially after the whole Llama 4 scandal? First, any new models on the horizon?
Yep, on December 28th, they revealed plans for 2 new models in 2026, a large language model called Avocado and a new image and video generation model called Mango.
Avocado and Mango, okay. And for the Llama API itself, they made some moves that seem aimed squarely at competitors like OpenAI.
Oh, absolutely. The biggest one is that the Llama API now offers full compatibility with the OpenAI software development kit, the SDK.
That's a huge deal.
It is. It means a developer could potentially switch from an OpenAI model to a Llama model with minimal code changes. That removes a massive barrier to entry.
Oh, what about performance?
They're claiming their Llama 3.2 models deliver inference speeds 2 to 4 times faster, with a 56% reduction in model size for some versions, so it's faster and cheaper to run.
And they also made a key privacy promise.
Yeah, a crucial one, especially now. They stated that customer data processed through the API will not be used to train Meta's foundational models. That's a necessary olive branch to rebuild trust with enterprise users.
So when we put it all together, what does this intense, kind of paradoxical week really mean? We saw Meta spend billions on Manus and scale AI, making this irreversible move toward becoming a vertically integrated agentic company.
Right.
And at the same time, their research is automating that whole stack, from the software with KernelEvolve to the long-term hardware with photonics. The shift from passive conversation to autonomous action seems complete.
That's absolutely it. The Manus deal shows they are all in on agents that make money. They're buying competence. But that commitment is happening right against the backdrop of the Llama 4 scandal and Yann LeCun's exit. It just underscores this immense pressure on AI leaders to not only perform, but to be credible.
They're building this incredibly sophisticated machine, but it's also on fire, and they're restructuring it in real time to try and regain trust.
A perfect summary.
So we watched Meta acquire agent technology and automate its own software stack in the same week. The real question for you to think about is this. If Meta's AI can now code its own kernels and orchestrate complex tasks, how rapidly will that $2 to $3 billion investment in Manus scale when you pair it with this unprecedented AI-optimized infrastructure? Thank you for diving deep with us.